My weakest, most fearful moments, I can still do hard things. I didn't know that through all the pain, there was healing.
How do you find and keep hope alive?
I will find hope in what Jesus Christ did for me.
Do we believe?
My hope is centered totally, completely in Him.
Do we trust?
I have hope today because of what Jesus did on the cross.
His hope doesn't change.
Hope is triumph in our triumph.
Hey, I'm Doc from the Light FM, and welcome to What Hope Sounds Like, Moments of Hope, as we continue to educate you and us on the problem of human trafficking right here where we live, under the blanket signal area of the Light FM, which includes states like Tennessee and North Carolina and South Carolina, Greenville, Spartanburg, Asheville, Knoxville, Charlotte. All of those cities and the cities in between, human trafficking is an issue, and we all need to pay attention. In this podcast, I had the opportunity to talk with April Timco. Now, she's the executive director of Street Hope Tennessee, operating out of Knoxville, Tennessee, a Christian organization dedicated to stopping human trafficking. I think you'll find hope in this podcast. Let's get started. For someone who just doesn't know, and I think that's a lot of people, what is this problem we're looking at in places like Tennessee, Knoxville, or Asheville, North Carolina, or Charlotte, North Carolina, or maybe even just pick any small town?
Yeah.
What kind of problem is this?
So the problem that we're tackling, it's domestic minor sex trafficking. And that is where basically minors are being trafficked in exchange for any um, sort of money, or it could be rent, it could be drugs, it could be so many things. But it's where children are being used in exchange for something of value. And so in the United States, every 2 minutes, a child is sold for sex. So we're looking at that as a statistic across the entire United States.
Right.
And so much of that is happening here in the South. We've got in Tennessee, we know that there are around 100 children who are being reported as sold for sex every month. And that's the average number that we're looking at. And that statistic's pretty old. So we know that since COVID, those numbers have grown tremendously. So whether I'm talking about Tennessee, North Carolina, Virginia, it really looks similar. I know here in Tennessee, we're sort of in the middle of a lot of interstates that go across the United States horizontally and vertically with 40 and 75. And so, you think about Asheville, that's just right down the road from here. They're on 40 as well. So we're all looking at it across the South as a major issue that's taking place among all communities of children, no matter what level their socioeconomic status is. It's happening everywhere.
Is it more confined to city areas or rural areas, or does it make a difference?
It really doesn't make a difference. But of course, because of population, because of interstates, because of things like that, you are going to see the major hotspots in the larger cities. So there's Knoxville, like we have heat maps that we often get where you see Knoxville or Nashville as the big red blob. You would see Asheville in the red. So the larger cities is where you will see a greater amount of it happening. But I know that here in the state of Tennessee, every single county in our state has reported cases of child trafficking.
Do you see a lot of transportation in this area? Because I know, for what I know about it, or what I've been exposed to through the media, is that somebody grabs a child and then they're shuttled off to New Mexico or Mexico, or they're shuttled off to India or something like that. Is there transportation between states, or is it just, this is kind of more of a localized problem, and it happens locally?
It actually goes both ways. So it is not often the snatch and grab situations that we've seen in the movies. That has happened more so internationally. That's still taking place internationally. But here in the United States, and especially where we are, it more often happens through internet and online, like social media, through gaming, any gaming systems or software with a chat function. Predators are heavily using these forms of communication to reach children, never posing as who they truly are or even an adult. Most often, they're posing as a child that they may act as if they're a child living in the next county over that a particular child hasn't met yet. They might ask questions that the child doesn't even realize are getting into their personal information and starting to understand where they live, where they go to school. So it's so easy to strike up a conversation with children and build trust that predators are using internet and online ways of targeting them more so um, than doing any type of snatch and grab. It can still happen, and there. I mean, we do often when they are taken away from where they came from. That can happen when it's an internet situation like that, taking them across state lines. So that's where the internet system or the interstate system gets wrapped up into all of this type of criminal enterprise. But the online thing is what we really try to tackle as an organization. We offer training programs for both adults and for students to help them understand how to keep children safe online.
And that's a great segue into talking about your passion and your organization. It's kind of like in the pornography industry, when you try to fight pornography, it's hard to get people to buy in because it's such an ugly problem. And this is one of those issues I think that parents and churches and all would rather sweep it under the rug because it's not there isn't any glamour in talking about it at all. And where do you help? So tell me about the passion and your organization.
Yes, well, and it's um you mentioned pornography. We actually do talk a lot about pornography because the pornography industry and what we do or what we're fighting is really aligned in a lot of ways because I think people don't realize how much of pornography is actually from the child trafficking industry and the domestic minor sex trafficking that's happening. Um, so, a lot of the pornography that people are seeing, or people that who are addicted to that, what they're actually seeing are girls who are not willfully doing what they're being forced to do on those and on those platforms. So we want to offer all sorts of ways for children to stay safe online. And we do that through prevention trainings. And like I said, we offer trainings to adults on what domestic minor sex trafficking is. And then we also offer specifically for adults and caretakers, really for um, any type of industry. We definitely offer this to educators as well, people that are working with children continuously. We offer an internet safety training, and that helps adults keep kids protected from all the ways that um, they can be found by predators online, basically. But then for students, we go into schools, we go into church youth groups and different organizations, maybe after school programs. We go into these organizations and we teach children about internet safety as well and help them understand it from their level and their point of view and from what they're doing. It helps them recognize how to spot something that's not right when they're online, because a lot of times parents don't know that these gaming systems have so many ways for children to be interacting and communicating with other people as they play.
Yeah. So education is the main piece, the only piece. Do you do anything for victims and recovery and reentry into society? I'm not sure of all the terms.
We do a lot more. We actually so our mission is to eliminate the sexual exploitation and trafficking of children, but we also want to provide environments that foster healing and hope. And so we do have a restoration program. I want to also mention with prevention education, we do have awareness. That's a big part of our mission. So, not just through the trainings, but we are also constantly speaking to churches and organizations, doing lunch and learns in businesses, going out, doing interviews like this, doing all that we can to go out into the community and help people understand how this exists, that it does actually exist, and helping people understand ways that they can get involved and they can help us in this fight against darkness that we're facing as a country and as a community and even as the church. So we want to help people understand that, they don't necessarily have to go through a 1 hour training to know more. We want to reach out in all the ways possible. But, and another part of our mission is prayer. That's first and foremost in all that we do. So this whole ministry began with a prayer group coming together and seeking God for what they were going to do about this situation back when it really started becoming more recognized in 2012. And so, as in 2015, we became a 501c3. So, prayer, we host prayer gatherings, we offer prayer guides on a monthly basis. So, we have a lot of churches partnered with us in prayer and believers that are just coming together with us and staying in prayer, and we stay unified in that. But back to restoration, we do want to do everything we can to prevent the sexual exploitation and trafficking happening from ever taking place in a family. But when it does, and when it has, we want to offer that healing and restoration that the child needs once she's been rescued from a trafficking situation. And so over 2 years ago, we opened East Tennessee's first safe home serving survivors ages 12 to 17. And it's called Garland Oaks. And it is a beautiful place of healing and restoration. Talk about a place that's covered in prayer. We often call this place a house of miracles. We began the project of building this home and really designing it, putting the program together back in 2018. And at that time, there were less than 100 beds across the entire United States for this age group.
Wow.
And
That
yes,
just
and
seems unbelievable since
it
the
is. It's
problem has become well known, as you said, in 2012
yeah.
and moving forward, and only 100 beds in 2018.
Yes, yes. I mean, it's really, it's not a program that's easy to carry out. And so it's definitely more and more needed. But we knew we had to do something about it. And so we began the planning, and back at that time we only had 2 employees in this organization. And now we have 35. So if that tells you
Wow.
anything, we had a great need at that time to be able to do this. We obviously were given a vision from God, but we needed God's guidance every millisecond and step of the way to make it happen. So we built this home. As I said, we opened it a little over 2 years ago, and since then we've been able to serve 15 girls, and it's just been an amazing experience. We offer in this home, we offer 24/7 direct care. Um, so direct care staff that's working around the clock, but we also have an on-site classroom where each girl receives the education at the level she is, because quite more often than not she's going to come in at a level that she may need to would normally have been in 8th grade but come in at a 3rd grade education level, so we've got to meet her where she is to help her get caught up. So we've got teachers on staff providing her with a customized education plan, and then we've also got a clinical team of Christian therapists who come together and provide individual sessions. They provide group sessions. We've got equine therapy, art therapy, pet therapy. And that might sound like a lot of things to offer these girls, but every single one of these programs are so needed for these girls, because more often than not, they come in and they don't want to talk. The talk therapy is not the first thing they need. So art therapy, equine therapy, those things are ways to help them begin to establish trust and open up and really move forward in their healing.
I would imagine that that piece there, more so than the roof over your head and the food on the table and nice accommodations, but that, the restoration, I would imagine that, a number of these victims come in basically brainwashed and, um,
Yeah.
really have a fundamental issue with what reality is.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's probably drug therapy involved as well, not necessarily drug therapy on a positive, but meaning I'm giving you something to help you deal, but more like addiction recovery and those kinds of things. Is that correct?
And by the time they reach our program, they have been through any drug addiction recovery that they've needed. So we don't necessarily provide that specifically. They may have come from that as a background. But yeah, I mean that's quite often part of it. But you made a great point. A lot of times they come through our doors not realizing what has happened to them, that it was wrong. I mean, they may even can still consider the person who trafficked them as their boyfriend. So that's something, one of the goals that we make sure to achieve with the girls who walk through our door is to help them recognize what counterfeit love is and how that is so different from the love of Jesus. And so we are always in our therapy, and and that of course takes some time. So girls are in our program for no specific time limit. They're there as long as they need to be.
That's great. I love that part too.
The one way that we're able to do that is that we do not take any state or government funding.
Yeah.
And, of course, one reason we don't do that is so we can continue to, just practice, I mean, under Jesus and under the
Right.
biblical, under our statement of faith, and stay in line with that. That's one reason that we won't take state and government funding.
Sure.
But another reason is because, often that will limit how long a girl can stay in our home, and we don't wanna
Right.
do that.
I have a couple more places that I want to go, but one that just caught my attention is the start of Street Hope, Tennessee. And that was from a prayer group. Can you tell that story from beginning to where you are now? Just like it started here. And then, I mean, tell me about this prayer group. Talk about the power of prayer.
Well, it's a pretty long story, so I'm trying to figure out how to summarize that. But and of course I wasn't here for the beginning of that. But this started out really as a group of believers. They attended an event here in Knoxville that was hosted by an organization very similar to ours, but they were based out of Atlanta. And so that's where this group of believers realized we've got to have something like that here in Knoxville. And so they started seeking and praying about the ways to really bring that together. And so this group really, they became our prayer group. They also to some degree the first executive director came out of this, but also like the board of directors came out of this. And so this group came together to really pull together. At first they knew they could start doing the awareness first and foremost, going to churches, helping churches get more involved, become partners with our organization. Church partnerships have always been a vital part of how we are funded and we continue to move forward. And then also prevention education. They knew, the more and more they were in churches, in schools, and doing the trainings, but they always had a vision for the safe home from the very beginning. They just knew that the timing wasn't right at that point because that was going to take a separate capital campaign. So for the first several years it was all about awareness and education and being out and spreading the word about what was taking place. I recently met a founding board member who told me, I didn't know this. They were going to truck stops truck stops and talking to truck drivers and giving materials out on what to look
Wow.
for.
Yeah.
So it was a very grassroots organization that continued to move forward. They hired an executive director who had a background in providing education in
Yeah.
schools
Yeah.
from another nonprofit. And so they hired her on to take over that education part of it and really move that forward. And like I said, back in 2018, the vision for the safe home became a reality with two donors that really said, hey, we're willing to put basically the seed money behind this if you can help continue to move this forward and make it happen. So they gave enough money to hire on a second employee who then created the whole vision and had come from the background of caring for children to know what that program needs to look like.
Yeah.
And so that is, of course, Garland Oaks, which opened a little over 2 years ago. And I came on board a little over a year ago from a long nonprofit and ministry background. And here we are. We're at 35 employees now.
So
And that
great.
includes our safe home and our office as well, that has prevention, education, development, operations, all those things.
The thrust of our podcast here is what hope sounds like, and I just can't help but point out that what started as a small group of Christians saying, "Let's pray about this. That
Yeah.
this is a need, and Lord, what would you have us do?" And let Him set the vision for all of these years, from 2012 to 2018, 6 years there to finally get Garland Oaks, and then here today, you're a year into the program with 35 employees and doing amazing work. I mean, I'm looking at all the places where you're applying yourself as a nonprofit, and I'm looking at impact. What does that really look like? That big impact of, I mean, you've said churches and you've said schools and individuals, and even to the point early on where you're at truck stops handing out brochures. I mean, what if you had to sum up from what you know and your knowledge of the organization? What's the numerical impact? Are we talking hundreds of thousands, you think?
Oh my gosh. We were even talking about this morning. I mean, like through all the ways that we're reaching people, we really are still not very specific on how we're reaching people, especially when you think about like the media and social media and things that we
Yeah.
do through awareness. But through our trainings, we know that in schools, just this past school year, we reached nearly 8,000 kids,
Yeah.
and that's middle and
That's
high school
so good.
students.
That's so good.
And that number is set to double
Yeah.
this school year with
Yeah.
the plans we have in place and bringing on one new person that's going to help provide more trainings. Also, we know that we've reached, as far as trainings and then just speaking engagements and awareness, we reached over 12,000 people last year.
Wow. That's
So
already
that
that's so amazing.
yeah, and that number just keeps growing each and
Yeah.
every year because we keep having more and more. And it's not even, I mean, we of course put ourselves out there, but like we have so many more churches and schools and organizations wanting to hear from us. Especially with the Sound of Freedom coming out last year, that
Sure.
really helped people start looking at like what is going on here in my own community. And they
Yeah.
started looking at the organizations that were around them.
Yeah.
So that really helped us become more known and more sought out by the community and by Tennessee and the surrounding states. But the numerical the numerical impact is mainly through our awareness and prevention. With restoration, it doesn't happen as quickly, but that's really quality more so over quantity
Yeah.
when it comes to that type of
Sure.
program.
Sure.
But we've already seen so many amazing things take place. We've had graduations this year of the girls in our program, and just some miraculous stories. We often call them moments of hope the ones we're able to share with people.
Yeah. Well, that's the theme of our Light On is moments of hope. It's wonderful that you would say that. And as we talked about the impact in the thousands and hundreds of thousands, or whatever that number is, over the long history of your organization, I'm reminded, in the Bible we read about feeding the 5,000, but really, truly, Jesus's ministry was oftentimes, if not all the time, arguably, one to one. So, can you share a story about maybe an individual from one place to another?
Yeah, I'd love to. That's one of my favorite parts of my job is to get to do that because we do have to share so much about what's happening and the just the evil that's taking place. So, of course, we love sharing the stories of hope and being able to see that take place in our ministry. I'll tell you about one of our recent graduates. She first came into our program, um, and actually, let me step back for a second. So, all the names of the rooms in our home are Hebrew girl names, and so they are just beautiful names that have special meanings. And so, Hannah is the one I'm talking about. She went by the name Hannah because we can't use their real names, so they go by these names, and they continue after they leave the home to remember these names, go just as their second name and their name that they had when they went through this healing process. And then we talk about sometimes with them how these are the names that they can pray for the because there's going to be more girls that take on that name, so they can pray for the next Hannah. So anyway, the recent Hannah that we had that graduated our program, she came to us, and at that time, she came in, she was wearing all black, very baggy clothes, just tried to stay very disassociated with everybody. She often had on like this huge black hoodie that she always kept her hood over her head. So, just really trying to stay distant from everybody out of, really fear more than anything else. And so, um, so she stepped in our home, and we actually, within, I believe it was like a week of her coming, we had the opportunity to celebrate her 13th birthday. And so, as we did things like that and had those moments with her, she began to see that Garland Oaks, our safe home, was a piece of the world where she could feel safe. And as she started realizing how she could feel safe in this environment, she began to really show who she was and who God had created her to be, because she began to become more creative and outspoken, talk a lot. She wanted to pick up every musical instrument she could find. We have volunteers who are very musical, so they get lots of opportunities to sing and play instruments and do things. So she was wanting to play every instrument she could pick up, and play the piano that's in our house. She was a star on our karaoke nights. So she really began to open up, and we knew the moment. So we have a prom. Just like, as a part of our school, we have a prom for all the girls. And it's, of course, just with them. There's no boys there, which they say actually makes that even more fun. but when she got ready for the prom, she stepped out in this beautiful bright yellow dress with butterflies in her hair. I mean, the opposite of what she looked like coming in, because she just really started to understand like what her favorite colors were and what she wanted to look like, and really just be her original self. So, as time went on, she stayed in our program for 14 months, and she came in at talking about education. She came in at a seventh grade academic level, but in 14 months, when she was retested, her academic level had gone from seventh grade to a 13th grade academic level because she was such a smart girl. But she just had so much fear, and just, how that can affect your mind in itself, even if you've not been abused. But, when you face the trauma like she has, she couldn't focus on studies and really understanding that she had any intelligence to learn and open her mind up to all these possibilities. So once she began to experience the healing, her mind became more clear. She was able to focus and really understand about what she could be and how she can move forward. And so she she actually, so recently she graduated. back this spring. She graduated from our program, and they all have the option to write a letter and share a letter at their graduation that they read in front of everyone. And this is staff and residents and some volunteers that they're closest to. So when she got up and she stood up, I actually think I have that. I wasn't necessarily planning to share this, so I'm going to look right here because I actually have it in front of me what she said. Um, yeah, when she stood up to talk on the mic at the graduation, she looked out over the crowd and she just stopped and she didn't start reading her letter. She just started speaking from the heart. And with tears in her eyes, she said, "A lot of great things start with an idea, and they don't always come to fruition. People give up and people move on. But a long time ago, people had an idea for a home. It was just an idea and it didn't have to happen. But I am so glad it did. I'm so glad they didn't give up. And I'm so glad I was able to come to Garland Oaks." And she also went on to read her letter where she talked so much about the fear that she had overcome. And she said, "Even in my weakest, most fearful moments, I can still do hard things." And she also said, "I didn't know that through all the pain, there was healing." So she just had she had so many great things to share about her healing progress at Garland Oaks that, and she was a totally different person. And that's what we see. That's what we see with the girls that walk in. They're just the transformation is amazing.
That point you've said, what you were just talking about, Hannah, and you said once they experience the healing, is there a point in time when someone comes in that, and I'm going to guess, but not everyone graduates, and
Yeah.
but that there's that point in time where you and your people working your organization go, yes, and if so, what does that look like?
Oh my goodness. Well, it can look so many different ways because you never know where it's going to take place.
Yeah.
I know, like, the latest one that I just heard the other day took place in the classroom with a girl who it's like she came in with this, like, "I'm not good in school. I don't think I want to go to school. I don't think I want to," because it really, they're given a choice throughout this program. So they have to apply themselves to be able to move forward, with school and all the things that they do. And so, the girl, I know she just felt hopeless about school. And um she began talking about, I think they were studying the solar system, and she said, "Wait, where does the sun come from? How did the sun happen?" Like, and so what's so cool about us, like being a Christian um, educational provider, we are able to talk about Genesis and go back to the story of how God created the universe. And so, um, just we realized as she asked more questions and she talked more about um, all these things and really got interested and started applying herself and started thinking and opening her mind more up to, like, all that we were teaching. She realized, she was I think she said something to her teacher like, "I think I'm going to really enjoy." They do summer school, and so they're getting ready for fall. They start fall next week. But she said, "I really think I'm going to do okay in school. I think I'm going to really enjoy this. Like, science is very cool, So
Yeah.
it's like there's those moments that you just see, like, it could be in the classroom and it could be in therapy, which of course, that's between them and the therapist. But, like, there's so many just little experiences like that in just living everyday life where something sometimes can just click. And it's like, I mean, we call those the God moments because obviously God is working in their lives, whether they realize it or not. And it's just amazing to watch. But yeah, we see that all the time. That's why we always write down these moments of hope, just, because it really is so cool to look back on on those moments and those experiences, and it really keeps us moving forward as well. Our staff have really tough jobs, and those are the moments.
Imagine.
Sometimes it can be the hardest weeks that our team's experiencing, and something like that can happen, and it's like, okay, that made it, that whole rough week made it worth it just for that one moment.
I can't imagine your staff being in that position on the other side of that hope moment that you're talking about. But prior to that, somewhere I would imagine there's got to be that realization again between the person and the therapist of, oh, I I was a victim. I was in a crime and I didn't even know it. And I can't imagine being in that place. But that's the beginning of that hope, I think, where there's that final, that realization of this is where I was,
Yes.
but I don't have to be there.
Right. Yes. And that's why, yeah, our therapists are amazing, and they definitely help each girl walk that out. But yeah, that's sometimes the moment that needs to take place for them to continue to move forward. And we don't, and that, going back to what you said about how some programs only allow this type of recovery for just 2 months maybe. We it takes a lot longer, and we don't believe that, God puts Band-Aids on brokenness. So we want each girl to experience healing for as long as she needs it.
He's capable of doing it in an instant, but oftentimes
Yeah.
there's that testimony that comes from it that helps others.
Right, exactly, yes.
Your organization is a nonprofit Christian-based organization. I'm guessing that you do some fundraising from time to time, and you got something coming up in September. Tell me about that.
Yes, we do. We have, our largest fundraising event of the year. I oh my goodness, it's leaving me. I believe this is our 8th year.
Oh, yeah.
But maybe don't quote me on that, but I believe it is our 8th year so far. So this is an event that, we have hundreds of people come together to celebrate what the Lord has done through Street Hope, but also really pray for what's to come together and get ready for what's to come. And so this is our annual fundraising. We have this at the airport, Knoxville Hilton. So we will have that, and we have over 600 people in attendance. Tickets are on sale right now, and it's called Hope Will Rise. And the tickets can be bought, and then sponsorship opportunities are also available. But sponsorships and tickets are available at hopewillrise.org.
Hopewillrise.org.
Yes, it's a great night. There's worship, we have a panel discussion, we have stories. It's a sweet, sweet time.
If a church, a business organization, or a motorcycle club wants to get education or wants to be a part of what you do with Street Hope, where do they go? How do they initiate some activity with you?
Yes, well, they're always welcome to reach out to me. Our website is streethopetn.org. So there's all sorts of information there that can guide you forward. But my email is April, like the month, April at streethopetn.org. People are able to reach out to me. But we've also got our phone number on there. We've got an online form that can be filled out if you're looking for a specific need, and don't remember my email address after this. But we've got all sorts of ways. We do love the partnerships we have with churches and businesses and organizations. Like I said, the sponsorships right now are available for Hope Will Rise, and we're able to give a lot of publicity through that. But we're also looking for other sponsorships throughout the year. And so again, it's a great organization to partner with, and we love to always give shout outs and provide promotional publicity opportunities around those partnerships if that's what someone with a business or organization would prefer.
And another way that they might be able to meet you is that if y'all come out and join us for any one of our play and prays that we're doing now between now and the 30th of August. So
Yes.
we'd be happy to have you. So appreciate your time today, and of course, your organization and your efforts.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This has been a pleasure. And we all love the Light FM. When I mentioned that I was coming on this program in our all staff meeting last Wednesday. Everybody's like, yay, because everybody listens to you guys. So, so
Well,
yes.
before we go, can I pray for you?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Father God, thank you so much for this appointment today. Thank you for the ability to share your love through the things that we do for you to build your kingdom and to glorify you. And right now, I lift up April and Street Hope and all of the 34 other employees that are working very hard to give hope to those, as your word says, those who can't help themselves, that we're to do that work. And so Street Hope is certainly doing that work in multitudes. You've given them such opportunity, Lord, through the educational piece, through the restoration piece, through the connections in the community, and just the education in general. And you've given them the tools, you've given them the house, you've given them the people to use those tools. So, Lord, we just thank you and glorify you for April and for Street Hope. And I ask that you would continue to provide for them tenfold, 100 times, Lord. I ask that you would also bless them in their fundraising, which is coming up in September. I ask that you would bless them as they individually, one-on-one with each one of these people who come through that don't know where they are. And here they are at Street Hope saying, you're in good hands. You're in the hands of Jesus. I thank you for this time, Lord. And we ask that you continue to bless in Jesus' name. Amen.